is Paul Barron. Welcome back into TechPath. All right, a couple of things I want to get to. One is our sponsor, and that is iTrust Capital. If you're looking at long-term holding and maybe positioning for a long hodl position on Bitcoin or Ethereum or maybe an altcoin, you can do it within a crypto IRA. And the way to do that is just click the link down below. It'll take you over to iTrust Capital. You can join about 250,000 of other people that have already gone into long-term holding in crypto IRAs. So it's a great place for, a very good tax benefit. Check it out, see if it applies to you. Use our link and get a $100 funding reward if you decide to go that direction. Now, what's been happening to Bitcoin over the past 3, 4, 5 days? We've seen a lot happening since the week of the ETF, but really what it boils down to is these outflows coming in to GBTC. Here's, of course, one of the tweets breaking, according to crypto reports from CoinDesk. Appears that up to half of the $2 billion in GBTC outflows were from the FTX liquidation of their 22 million shares. In addition, Alameda also voluntarily dropped the lawsuit against Grayscale Investments today. So there's that. Then you have, based on some tagging, I'm seeing between around 600 million and almost 800 million sent this AM this morning, which is the largest settlement between Grayscale and CB Prime that I've seen so far. So again, more indicators. Real question here is, how does this play for the other ETFs? Well, when you look at that, now you have right now BlackRock and Fidelity holding more than 64,000 worth of Bitcoin at 2.6 billion. So timing is very interesting here. Bitcoin ETF happens, Bitcoin's hovering around that 44 to 45 range. All of a sudden we see this market correction down to 40K, which is where we're hovering right now. And you see these new market entrants looking at long-term play. And remember, we've got a lot of very interesting narratives that are shaping up right now. What we might see here with the continued outflows of GBTC, what we will see with a halving, and also what could happen from a macro position in the markets if we continue to see slow inflation, slowing of the potential rate reductions, meaning the Fed fund rates. All of that could play into a very interesting and possibly good opportunities in buying this dip. So how does this play out for you guys? We'll break down into a couple of points here. This is a good one right here. While I think people will sell GBTC, most will switch into other ETFs. This I'm not so much in agreement with. I think people that are exiting GBTC may be looking at finally doing self-custody, possibly going into their own access on exchanges, and or trying to maybe alternate into some other tokens and some other projects out there. So I don't know. I'm not sure I totally agree with Novogratz here on this one. But he is saying that the indigestion will end and Bitcoin will be higher in 6 months. This, of course, all on, the ETF situation as it's playing out right now. And I think timing, also it's kind of that sell the news event, which is really what happened over the past week. A couple other things that are playing out right now. You've got Judge Torres and Judge Rakoff declared that the token itself is not a security. And this is all in relationship to the Binance case. And what's interesting here is that we've got Scott Johnson talking about the way the SEC is kind of positioning. They even said it. So SEC at the Binance oral said the token itself represents an investment contract. And the token represents the embodiment of an investment contract. But over at the Coinbase oral argument, they were saying, well, no, it's code. So I think they're struggling with trying to figure this out. I think the point that we're going to see is Judge Fela, who is presiding over the Coinbase case. She's probably pretty much going to come out, I believe, with a very interesting statement, whether she does a dismissal on the Coinbase case, which would have a lot of influence on this one, or if she does a really harsh positioning for a lawsuit that most likely would give us an indicator that Coinbase is going to win, which I believe is pretty much the way it's going to flow. Now, what else is going to continue to push the Bitcoin price down? Well, it's going to be the FUD. And if you look at this headline right here, this is a GAO analysis for a crypto report on evading sanctions. This is what has been claimed by, of course, none other than, guess who? Senator Warren. Now, this was Graywall talking about the fact that these analyses are actually inaccurate, that what we're seeing in real nefarious activity is actually coming from fiat. Further into this was the interesting point right here. Digital assets like Bitcoin and other virtual currencies pose risks on implementing and enforcing U.S. Sanctions, but several factors partially mitigate these risks. You can kind of see a little bit there. Key feature of digital assets is enabling users for rapid transfer of value across borders. So Warren, of course, comes in and says, hey, we got this report that says rogue nations are using crypto to dodge sanctions and undermine our national security. Then they go further into it, and then you see that there's reader added context. So basically, crypto Twitter is fact-checking Senator Warren, and then you kind of see some statements here. People quickly told Warren the report she cited mentioned just an instance of using cryptocurrency to avoid sanction, and that partly involved was a Chinese situation. So if you look at that and then you kind of compare this to where the real data is coming from, well, guess what? It's coming from none other than fiat. Right there. Money laundering used in the US dollar since 2017. Look at that number compared to this measly entry on crypto since Bitcoin since 2017. So again, just normal FUD that's coming at the market. These are the kind of things that just, I think in general, the crypto army and of course what's happening with Senator Warren and of course our friend over at the SEC continue to push in this position. I want to go to a few clips here because this is mainstream Wall Street. This is the CEO of Franklin Templeton. And it's interesting that mainstream Wall Street is starting to understand what's really happening here in light of what the politicians are trying to do with special interest groups like Senator Warren. So to me, that's a big deal because it starts to create a much bigger narrative in the monetary system, but more importantly in mainstream Wall Street. And I think the position is starting to get very clear very fast. Listen to what she had to say.
You know, one of the things that made me a believer is as I went around the world talking to people who would tell you, I had somebody who said, I keep 50% of my savings in Bitcoin because if I say the wrong thing in my country, I could have my assets confiscated. I remember talking to somebody in Israel who said, my parents and their parents had all of their assets confiscated. They keep a portion of it in Bitcoin. So there's a fear component to it that is considered almost a insurance or safety component. But I also think it's really important to fueling what is a next real opportunity in this blockchain world.
That is the CEO of Franklin Templeton saying the quiet part out loud. This is a big deal when you start to see mainstream finance understanding how the rest of the world is adopting not only Bitcoin, but in general, digital assets. So pretty interesting position right here. I just wonder before and how long. I understand it's all about the money, follow the packs. We have an election year. The likelihood is we're going to probably see a lot of moving around in terms of the parts on the political functions of this, but it's very interesting that Wall Street's getting in on it. Here is the CEO talking about the ETF and blockchain in general. Listen in.
You know, it's funny. I'm known for saying that Bitcoin's the greatest distraction from one of the greatest disruptions in financial services, which is blockchain. So a lot of people took that as I'm not a believer in Bitcoin. And yet, launching this ETF, you can see, obviously, the demand that's out there. I think that, one, from a blockchain standpoint, the ability to pay, Bitcoin's going to be a key component of that. And the technology is going to open up a lot of really interesting types of investment opportunities. We actually launched a tokenized money market fund. We're the first mutual fund first traditional asset manager to actually launch a 40 Act fund on a public blockchain, on the Stellar blockchain. So Bitcoin is just one of the suite of what we think are opportunities here.
So again, they launched on XLM, the Stellar blockchain, decentralized tokenized securities, and you look at a scenario like that around money market funds, gets interesting very quickly because they're realizing one thing, and that is blockchain is starting to change the future of finance. This is what we've been saying all along. Now it's just a matter before the rest of the world gets caught up on this, and then the regulatory environment, which to me is the home run waiting to happen, and I think that's coming up very soon. Further into this, I want to get into, of course, Elon Musk and X launched over the weekend X payments. This is something that I think everybody has kind of been expecting. But the point is that you've got Elon out there pushing this narrative. Whether he is successful with X or not, the point is that you've got one of the biggest and most, I would say, one of the richest people in the world that are starting to understand how blockchain is really tying in, potentially moving money around. And this will be, I think, a big deal for us to pay attention to. And of course, it did move the price of Doge. Just looking quickly here, money flow is, though it was dipping out over the weekend, starting to move right there. And then you saw that little pump right there. So not necessarily a big narrative mission on Doge, but it did move the price a little bit. Anytime he mentions it, kind of moves the price. I think his point, though, to what happened with Doge and other alternatives out there, whether you think about USDC, which most likely will get the nod, I think, in terms of true payments, that is based on Ethereum. So if you're a believer in blockchain and you're a believer of digital assets, and we already see the movement from Wall Street coming in, well, then you have to believe in Solana, Avalanche, Ethereum. Those are the three big critical assets, I think, right now that are starting to really position overall as a narrative. Now, there's going to be a lot of opportunities here going forward, because I think the key here is how much are you in the way of early? And if you look at the current data, global crypto user base surpassed 500 million people in 2023. This came over from crypto.com. Interesting point right here that I want to hit on here. Company estimates the global number of cryptocurrency users increased 34%. That's a big number in 2023. In a time in which the market was somewhat suppressed, and we definitely were not in necessarily a buying environment because of the Fed and what they were doing in terms of continuing to crush rates. But growing from 432 million to 580 million, they revealed also that ETH ownership had risen from 89 million to 124, while Bitcoin ownership had increased from 222 to 296. So by the year's close. So good point is that it's still up and to the right. The interesting part here is when you look at the overall financial plugged in population, that's probably between 5 and 6 trillion. And you look at the opportunity here of how much in terms of true adoption, maybe 10% is the bigger picture of people that can actually participate in the financial system. So are you early? Yeah, you're still early, because until we get to a critical mass of around 20 to 30% of the world's population truly engaging on this market is going to continue to see some significant upside. Overall, I think digital assets, it's probably going to accelerate as we start to see NFTs and true tokenized securities and digital assets, real world assets especially, kind of move to the next level. Here's Raoul Pal. And he hits it pretty good here on what to watch for. No leverage. That's something we coach on here a lot. No FOMO. Don't do that. When you do get something that is starting to make a run, don't follow it up. Top 3 to 5 assets as your main bag. I think everybody kind of knows where you live in terms of what you like, whether you're in the ETH ecosystem, the Solana ecosystem, Bitcoin, or gaming, whatever it might be. But sticking to those top 3 to 5. Self-custody, definitely easy, good wallet hygiene, very simple. Trade small degen bags, I agree on that. I'm a little bit more aggressive than 10%. And then HODL, long time horizon, zoom out, remove the noise, except for PBN. And then, of course, expect these kind of pullbacks, these 35% pullbacks are often. And, when you do get a chance to buy these pullbacks, then do it. If you're convicted in this space, if you truly believe in the future of finance, then this is your opportunity to get in there. Let's take a look at some of the charts just to get an example. We'll take a look at Solana right here. If you come off the high here on Solana, I'm using the Lux Algo indicators, and we're currently trading at around almost 30% down here from its nice little high nest around 120, coming in around 84. This is another one that if you are long-term, this is starting to get into a buy window for me. I'm looking anywhere between that 82 and around 75 range, which is really around 76 would do it. But any of those, that's a great opportunity if you are looking at Solana when you kind of zoom out on that one. If you look at Avalanche, of course, has made its way down to $30, which I think is going to be a little bit of a psychological wall. We may not see this one dip further, but if it does, that opportunity around $26 could be another zone that we're looking into. Now, one thing to watch is the money flow coming out of Avalanche, and it continues to really kind of climb here. I want to kind of show you on this Lux Algo indicator there. Another one too, when you're looking at the signals and overlays, these indicators are really good for really kind of catching those early waves. So be on the lookout for those. If you guys aren't using LuxAlgo, make sure and check it out. We always leave a link down in the comments. Make sure also and check out our market sentiment index. This is where we track sentiment data on the top 50 tokens that we think are moving and projects that we like. So you can, of course, learn a lot more around that on everything from our traditional finance all the way into tokens individually. It looks at more market trends going forward. Listen, if you guys are not following me out there on X, it's very simple. Just it's at Paul Barron. Very simple. Watch. By the way, watch the scammers. Both in the comments. We never comment down below and tell you to, reach out to our WhatsApp or any of those kind of crazy things. There's only one Telegram account. There's only one Twitter account. So at Paul Barron for me, at Paul Barron TV, official Paul Barron on TikTok, and official Paul Barron on Telegram. Those are the only ones that we work with. So if you guys are out there getting any other kind of crazy messages, it's not us. So be capable and pay attention to out there. Don't fall for these phishing things. Anyway, we'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.